Hi, good evening. This is Ahava again. I just wanted to continue on with my narration, which I made when I was at Binondo earlier. As I mentioned in that video, it was cut. That's why I wanted to kind of fill in the details regarding what I was talking about. Way back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, I I was assigned to a team because I joined the Emmanuel Charismatic uh, group at Greenbelt, and there was this task. I had to go to Divisoria to print some T-shirt, and I don't know what happened, but I found myself just walking towards because the place is in General Luna, and I found myself drawn to Binondo. So I went in the church. I think although I've been there. No, I haven't been there. That was my first visit, I think, if I'm not mistaken. 20 when I was in Divisoria, or I think I visited it one time, but I'm not too sure. But based on what I remember, it is the first time I visited it. And what's so weird about Binondo is that I feel so at home there. And I was planning to find a place and live there because I feel as if I was in Jerusalem in so many ways. That is the weirdest part of it all. And that is back in 2014 when those buildings have not yet been built there. And as I said, I was drawn to Binondo Church, and then I went in and prayed, and something just so weird happened while I was there. It's like, for some reason, I feel connected to the place. I don't know. I don't understand why. It's a feeling. It's a similar feeling I had with the Holy Sepulchre, but less intense. But the peace, the serenity, it's basically the same. So I prayed, and then all of a sudden I was drawn because I don't know how to go to Santa Cruz. How to go to Santa Cruz. I just know that if all of those roads lead to Santa Cruz. And so what I did was just follow the street beside Binondo. And that's the only time I realized it's Ongpin. Actually, I did not read that it's Ongpin, only after the experience. So what happened was I was just walking like an ordinary walk. Then immediately after passing that bridge, as I mentioned, all of a sudden I was engulfed with this sensation and experience. My entire body was, and it made me feel and remember the experience I had when I was in Jerusalem near the Wailing Wall. And because I normally visit the Wailing Wall, my routine was in the afternoon because it's nice there from 7 to 9 o'clock. But you cannot stay there 10, 11 up to the 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's too hot. That's why when I go there, it's either in the morning, after on my way to the Mount Olives, or in the afternoon after I've slept, I think, or done my siesta or something else. So there was this several instances. It's not only once. Several instances. One was in the morning, and the other one, if I'm not mistaken, was in the afternoon. I was praying. I was touching the stone, and I have a piece of paper because that's the practice. And then all of a sudden, I felt it. It's very distinct, and because this happened in 2004, and I had the same feeling when I visited Compostela, Santiago de Compostela. It's the same presence. And then when I visited Israel again, when I was prompted to visit the Church of the Armenians, there is that presence again. And that same exact, it's so exact, it's so the same, presence was there in Ongpin, from that bridge going to the other bridge at the other end. And I was so amazed at the intensity, because when I was in Jerusalem, it wasn't that intense. It was, and now I realize it's perhaps there were certain persons or individuals that were residing at that time there. Because when I was in Israel, there were a group of men, obviously men, praying behind me. And I think they look Sephardic, I think they are Sephardic Jews. And they don't look like the Ashkenazi, if I correctly pronounced it. And it was so intense, because I've always been in that Wailing Wall, and it's not all the time there. So my analysis even back then is that it is caused by certain persons around me at that time. And in a way, something in me is activated, and it's responding to their presence in so many ways. That's so weird. And what is remarkable, it's this exactness of the presence, the effect on me. It's the same. That's why my analysis when I was in Ongpin is that perhaps those who were residing at that time, because now it's not that strong anymore. There were certain areas still, but very weak already. So this led me to believe whoever was there in 2014, and because the last time I visited that it was still strong was 2016. Yeah, 2016. They're no longer there. And the uniqueness is that the same presence when I was among those gentlemen, when I was in the courtyard of the Armenian, immediately upon entering that courtyard, which it leads to the door to the Armenian church, because the door is so small, you have to stoop down. I immediately felt it, and I felt that same presence when I was en route to Compostela. I was mid-air, that's so weird, because I really felt it, and it's still it's the same. And that's why whoever was there before, I know now they are no longer there because perhaps they were residing in the buildings that were demolished and where now the new high buildings are situated. So that's the story about the short video that I made and posted, and I just wanted to elaborate on it and why I said it's a mystical experience. And this led me to believe perhaps my genealogy, I do not know, I haven't done my DNA testing. I might have on my father's side Chinese lineage, because based on how I understand the around the Wawa, most of those, I think, if I'm not mistaken, are Chinese settlements. Those areas in San Del Remedio, San Juan, and all those areas, if I'm not mistaken. And I just think, and now based on my suspicion on my mother's side, I might have the Mexican lineage. I based this on my connection with the Mexicans and the Spanish when I was in Jerusalem, because there was this moment wherein there was a retreat at Notre Dame, and all of these Mexican priests were there. I joined them in the afternoon during the Vespers at Notre Dame, and then some of them caught me inside in the Holy Sepulchre and in the Chapel of the Resurrection, and I felt so connected to them. My that's why I this is only a speculation. I think on my mother's side, the maternal line actually is either from Iberian Iberian lineage, I think. I just don't know how, but I have reason to believe because the connections of the Irish, the Spanish. Now the Spanish, those who are from the north, not from the south. I don't know why, but from the north, and also from France. There was this incident when I was in the Vatican. There was this priest. It's so weird. That's why I wanted to stay at the Vatican because I felt so strong and so elated and so happy in so many ways. The feeling I had when I was in Israel, but in Israel it's like I'm connected to it in a way I could not describe. And I know there were a lot of persons who visited the place that got this syndrome of some sort. Father Fergus mentioned it, and at the start when it was happening to me, this connection and everything, I said I might be suffering from it, you know. But when I analyze how my thoughts are, it's still rational, you know. And I always based it and really try to rationalize everything, and to the extent of overthinking it actually. And that's why when going back to that incident when I was in the Vatican, actually there was no, I think I came in late because normally I attend Mass at the Blessed Sacrament Chapel in the Vatican, inside St. Peter. There's this chapel there, and that's where I saw the current rector of the cathedral. He was there when way back in 2008. He was serving there. I chanced upon him, but I only know him by face. He doesn't know me, so I just know that he's from Laguna, and he was the former. He was the one who married my sister during way back in 1993 and 92, if I'm not mistaken. So I knew his face, but we do not know each other. So I saw him there. So I think it was finished, so I went, and then I chanced upon this friend. I did not know he was French, and it was so different. It was so, there's no word to describe it. And what was so weird is that when I approached, I lost all inhibition because my personality is that I do not converse, But because of the intensity of the experience during the celebration, I was prompted to approach him and inquire what congregation, if he's a religious, and from what diocese, something like that. So I approached him, and he was walking towards the sacristy, and he said that he's from France, up north, and everything. And to give an idea, it's like something in me knows him. That's so weird. And it's responding to him in a way that is so unexplainable. Although it's a sensation, I think it's my flesh feels, but it's not happening in the flesh. It's happening something in me which responds to his presence. And when he was talking, it's as if he was, but mind you, that's the only time I saw him. And he's from France. And there were several instances in that chapel. Each time, priest comes in, I would be as if activated in so many ways. But not all. Majority of them who visit the chapel, because my routine was to stay there, because that would be open up to lunch and it will close, and that's the only time I leave. So what I do, I stay there and pray, and each time a priest comes in, it's really remarkable. I cannot explain the feeling. It's in a way addictive because it's so beautiful. It's like there's a part of me that is so happy to see those persons coming, and I don't even know who they are. And some of them, when I turn around, because I was feeling this intensity of some sort. Obviously, I would turn my head and see who's behind. So I would look, and then they would smile, perhaps. I don't know. I don't want to put anything in it. I can only speak of what's happening to me, and that was what's happening to me. And there was this incident that is really the remarkable moment, because when I was in Israel, there was this Polish priest, not Father Antonio. He was a priest that is visiting Israel. He's a diocesan priest. And what happened was there were several occasions that he was there at the chapel, and I'm always there. After Notre Dame, the Vespers there, I would immediately proceed to the Holy Sepulchre because it closes around, I think, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. It depends if it's daylight saving time. So what happened was they were there already when I arrived the first time. And then what's remarkable is when he was praying the rosary, and when he was praying, a part of me was very, shall we say, activated. And in each beat, as if I feel, but mind you, because he's speaking Polish, I just knew that he was praying the rosary because he was holding the rosary. And I could feel each movement of his rosary because he was praying silently. There's a sound, but it's a murmur, so you don't really hear what he was saying. So that was the first time. So I just said, oh, it's perhaps a coincidence only, and it's not something that will happen again, And then all of a sudden, the next day, he's there again, And then he was praying again the rosary. And then I kind of felt anxious, not afraid, but anxious, Why am I feeling this, And then what was funny because each time I leave, I would touch the tabernacle. So the tabernacle is behind the altar. So the tendency is obviously before I touch it, I genuflect and pray, and then stand up, touch it, and pray, and then genuflect. And he was still praying, and I decided to leave to test, what's happening. Is it him causing it, Because if I leave, then my analysis, my scientific mind, it should stop. Because, and then by that, I would know that it's caused by him. Because he was the only one there together with another priest with him, So I left. And then as I was leaving, the experience diminishes, and everything just went back to normal. So I realized that it's really him who's causing it, Something in him is causing it. So the next day he's there again. I approached him already and asked what he was doing. I waited until I felt it again, and then I stood up and then approached him, and I think after or during, I think after he finished praying, that's the time I couldn't remember, but what I know is I asked him and inquired what was he doing, and then he said he was praying the rosary, and then I inquired about his name. His name is Father Peter, the Polish priest. And what is remarkable, that was 2004. In 2008, they were also in the Vatican. I was there praying, and I felt it again because for some reason I could now remember the presence, of someone, the priest. So I felt it, and I was saying to myself, could it be Father Peter? I said to myself, because he has a distinctive presence, meaning something in me reacts so distinctively when he's around, and that's why when he was praying for, I think, because he was, I think, all throughout the duration that he was there, he was visiting the Holy Sepulchre. So we were always exposed to each other. So that gave me the opportunity to associate the experience and somehow remember. And that's why when I was in the Vatican, I felt it. And I said to myself, it's Father Peter. Is he here? And then lo and behold, when I turned my head, it's him. And he's with Father Casimiro. I really wanted to catch them, but because I hesitated because I don't know if they still remember me. It's been 4 years, this rational self of mine got the best of me and said, no, just don't approach them, something like that, and they might not remember you anymore. And I was saying to myself, it's okay, at least you know that you still remember his presence, something like that. But this immense elation of seeing him and feeling his presence again really overwhelmed all that reservation, and really I stood up, but it was already too late. They were a little bit far already, and there were a lot of pilgrims. So I was shouting, but Father Casimiro perhaps they were in a hurry too, so I didn't catch them, but they were there in 2008. And Peter was not the first. That type of experience was not the first. It was after coming back, because with Peter, it happened after I came back in July around that time. The first similar experience took place in Hawaiian Gardens after I returned to the United States in April 2004. I was so, very much homesick of Israel, and so many things. And I often go to Hawaiian Gardens even before visiting Israel, St. Pio's, Hawaiian Gardens. I don't know why I was there. I think because most of the Filipino parishioners in Buena Park and in the Hawaiian Gardens are more or less, they more or less belong to the same Filipino community there, and they know each other. So there are these ministries that they also do in each place. Because I was very much involved in Alpha in St. Pius. That's how I became involved, and thanks to Father Forgati, who was there. And then eventually I got to know Father Kevin, Father Grace, those two priests. Father Grace and Father Kevin was the two priests I more or less have been really, I cannot say close as in close, but at least there were occasions that we were together. I think several times, because the Filipinos that, because of the church, I was in the Buena Park Church, St. Pius V, are close to him. So when I was somewhat became part of their circle, I was also introduced or became part of the circle that was very much close to Father Kevin and Father Grace and the other priests. Father Forgerty was only during Alpha, but after that, not that much, because he was transferred. He was moved already. So, but Father Kevin was very much, because na Ellen, who and the Santoses are very close to Father Kevin. So they became close to me because of the adoration. All of those persons that was Filipinos and foreigners alike became part of my life because of the Holy Eucharist, you know. And that's how I was very much exposed to religious Catholic activities while I was in America back then. So going back to Hawaiian Gardens, after coming back, for some reason or another, Father Kevin got ill. And he had this operation in his Sister Marisa was called me up out of the blue. I was on my way to Hawaiian Gardens because the priests there are very, I don't know, they have this connection with me that I could not explain. Their presence are so different. And when I was on my way there one evening, because I wanted to do adoration, because in the state there is a assigned day, and it's a 24-hour adoration. So it's nice if it's like that because you kind of can plan it, you know, and you can stay all night and everything. Since I was there already, but the problem is the schedule, so I could not do it in Buena Park. So I went to Hawaiian Gardens at the time, and on my way, Sister Marisa called me, I think, or texted me. I think she both did, but called and texted me and informed me that Father Kevin was ill, and I should pray for him and everything. So I obviously, Father Kevin is the closest priest I ever knew. You know, I had been close to a priest. He was really very helpful after coming back from Israel because I was so depressed. And we have this Friday night group, and that is his group, you know, and it really helped me, you know, really remove my thoughts of. And there was this priest also, forgot his name. He's also Irish, but he's older. But he stopped saying mass already because his faculties are no longer very much working properly. So anyway, so there were instances that he was repeating it already. So he does confession only, and forgot his name. His presence also, because I felt it when I'm doing adoration. I think he's behind because the sacristy is behind the tabernacle. There's a door going there, and I think he's there. That's why I could feel him. And what is so funny is that I was so depressed. And Father Kevin, he would play this song, Moon River. I don't know how he knew that was my theme song, you know, Moon River. And he sang it, and the loneliness, the depression just fade away. That's why it was so funny, you know. It's really funny and remarkable at the same time. It's amazing, actually. So that's how I am very much not that close as in close, but we were at least at least we spend several occasions together with the close Filipino friends, dinner, and also, and that's how I became close also to the doctor. I forgot the name of the doctor there. It's through them, because of that Friday night group. That's why I had this opportunity of joining Father Mercado, the priest who's very much into ecumenical dialogue and everything. We went to Capistrano, San Capistrano, somewhere in the south of California. So that's the, I think I'm making this too long already, but the first experience of that radiating presence, while the rosary was Father John at Hawaiian Gardens, and he was when I arrived, there was adoration, and then there was rosary while he was adoring in front. There are other priests that have done that, but it's only him and Peter, actually. Peter in July or something, around August. The similar incident happened, but with Father John, every time he was praying the rosary, and I'm praying too, and with the same instance with Peter also, there was this vent of some sort that was opening. Now, when I was in Hawaiian Gardens, I just treated it as, perhaps there's an air condition at the top, although there was no vent, but perhaps the air was converging on the top of my head, and that's why it's creating this kind of flowing air of some sort. But when I was in the Holy Sepulchre somewhere in August, perhaps, I think, when I met Peter, Father Peter, there was no air condition to talk about. And if you've been to the Chapel of the Resurrection, the only window is at the end. There is no vent. It's only in the end. So when I already narrated the incident with the Armenians, the Catholic Armenians, not the Armenians of St. James, or St. Jacob. These are the Armenians that are in communion with Rome. The two cleric, if they were cleric, I do not know, but they were wearing vestments that indicates that they were. And Peter, similar to what was happening to me with Father John, there was, because initially I was just radiating. Now remember, I already approached them and everything, and so the next succeeding moments, there is now this vent thing, that each time that the bead was being prayed, there's this beautiful air that is like a soft breeze of air coming and opening above my head. It's weird, and I just tried to act normal. It's weird, but it's really happening, and I do not know if they're saying something or doing something, but what I can say is what was happening to me at that time. And that's why Father Peter, when I felt him in the Vatican in November, I think that was November 2008, I really remembered because he was like Father John. And that's why I based my hypothesis, I call this a hypothesis, that for some reason I have lineage, French, Iberian. I think it's from my mother's side, but I don't know my grandparents. I don't know where they came from or what, but what I can say is that the French, all of the Iberian, except for, yeah, I do not know the English, but the Irish, I can definitely say, because Father Grace, Father Timothy, I remember his name. They were all they have this effect on me. It's not on my flesh, it's something within me. I couldn't explain what it is. It's something in me. And what's so remarkable is that that's why I love being with them, when I was, as if I feel so at ease, even though I barely know them, I feel more at ease more with them rather than with my blood relatives, and I cannot explain that. And it's something very, very peculiar, and that is something I wanted to share. And I know it's been a while, and it's a beautiful moment. And what is so remarkable about this event is that there was this other priest also who was suffering at that time, Father Pat. He had cancer and everything. And when I returned when I went to Israel, and I knew when I came back, I knew already that Father Pat would not be staying for long, and I knew also that Father Kevin would be okay. And even though, like what happened with Antonio, I just knew it already. And with Father Pat, I just said, I think to Marisa was actually the one who asked me to pray for, because Father Pat was not, I'm not as close to as compared to with Father Ken, because Father Pat I was only I knew him through Marisa, and he was doing confession. I had confession with him several times, so I knew him as a priest, visiting priest there. But the only time I was with him was during the birthday of Na Rosita. I think she was 70 at that time. We in Garden Grove. That's the only time that I was seated beside him, and we acquaintance is the appropriate word. We were acquainted with each other because of Sister Marisa, but I barely know him, But the thing is, that's the thing, Sister Marisa. Someone asked to pray for. Sister Marisa was asking me to pray for him because he was like this, and like what happened with Father Kevin, it was also Sister Marisa, and there was this sister, because I joined the legionary. They really forced me to, not force me, but really, I don't know the word, but since I'm there all the time in the adoration, and it's Mama Mary's so I decided to join the legionary. And what happened was, there was this sister of ours that got ill, very serious also, and it's remarkable. I don't know how I knew it, but I already knew that she would be fine already, and and again, it wasn't me on my own, you know. Someone asked me. That's normally how it is with Antonio. Father Antonio asked me before he actually fell ill to pray for him. With Father Kevin, it was Sister Marisa. With Father Pat, it was Sister Marisa. With his, I think, brother, I visited him also. And that is also one remarkable moment. I couldn't believe what was happening at that time. The anointing of the sick, you know. I was with this priest from Greenbelt, which I contacted through the office. I knew him already because I see him in Greenbelt, and I forgot his name, but he perhaps knows me by face also. And because the brother cannot hear anymore, so what he did was he get a newspaper, and then while he was doing this, as if the entire place, as if a bubble of some sort, a beautiful radiating bubble of pure presence engulfed the place. And you could see in the eyes of his brother that he was at peace. Because when initially when we just arrived and started, you see the agony, the eyes is so restless and so on. But after that experience, you know, as if something in me just went max, you know, and engulfed the entire immediate space, you know. And I looked at the brother of Sister Marisa. He was at peace after the moment, and it was remarkable. I wrote about it. That's why I believe that anointing of the sick, it's not anointing, perhaps healing, if it's really meant for that person to be healed. But for me, that experience restores some part of that man who was in agony. I think like his soul was kind of healed, because his body obviously is not healed, you know, but the disposition of his soul perhaps has been restored. And you could see it in his eyes, because I saw how his eyes were before, you know, when we arrived, and Father was trying to exact or ask him or inquire about certain things, but he could hardly talk. And it was a bit noisy because it was a ward. It's not a room. There were other patients, because it was an ICU. So there were other patients. And that was the first time I assisted in the anointing of the sick. And it was so amazing. It was really amazing. And I don't know how it happened, you know. I was just standing there, you know. Then all of a sudden I felt something weird was happening. And then all of a sudden this beautiful presence. And then after that, you could see in the face of the brother that he is at peace. And I was so amazed at it. And then Father and I parted ways and everything. It's really amazing. And that's, I think, there were other events which the other one I couldn't, but I think those are the more significant events, that this beautiful presence. And that's why I like it when I'm there in the Vatican, because not all priests have that presence. That's something. And going back to my hypothesis, because it's my flesh, when Mexican or Iberian clerics are around, my flesh is the one responding, or something in my flesh is responding. So based on science, the genetic makeup of the child comes from the mother. The mitochondria part, and that's how I analyzed it. That's why I feel my mom and my grandma and my grandma's grandma, for some reason or another, have either French, Mexican, Spanish lineage because of those incidents. It's remarkable how, from especially the French, I don't know why, when I was in Lourdes, that I like it there also. When I was in Lourdes, it's very different also. It's very, the place, it's very different. And Fatima is the place, I need another video to discuss Fatima, but for now, that's it. It's an hour already, so I have so many things to do, but I guess I have to do this, and hopefully those who would be watching kind of understand me, why things in my life are like that. Ever since 2002, I think. Ever since 2002, it has been a journey, and now another journey is beginning, so I hope everything goes accordingly. Ta-ta! Until next time, bye!